Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, Executive Editor at ClassicsToday.com and Celebrity Spokesmodel for the ClassicsToday.com shop, featuring this fabulous new t-shirt, You Can't Be Overrated Until You're Rated. Words of wisdom from the critics to the public. Feel free to get yours in the store. But now we are here for the ALDAs, the Avoid Like Death Awards, the celebration of the most putrid, senseless, revolting recordings released in the year 2021. And there was no shortage, I assure you. But I have whittled the pile of steaming you-know-what down to seven choice releases, which will be grouped into 4 categories. Those categories are the white scarf of Irredeemable Chutzpah, the Scarlet scarf of shame, the Taupe scarf of Turpitude. Look it up in case you don't know what it means. And last but not least, the black scarf of lingering stench. That's the recording that's annoyed me the most over the entire year. So, you'll see what it is when we get to it. First, let us begin, as we normally do, with the white scarf of Irredeemable Chutzpah. You know, it's actually fascinating because we have 7 different awards given out to recordings representing only 3 composers, which means that there was some really spectacularly bad work done in just a couple of names, and you won't have any problem guessing what they are. First, there is the Theodor Currentzis Beethoven Symphony No. 7. This thing. Oh my God, was that awful. This gets the white scarf of Irredeemable Chutzpah because everything that Currentzis does seems to be smitten with his tendency to exude irredeemable chutzpah. The sad thing about Currentzis is that he's really a talented guy, but he's doing his very, very best to cover that up and hide it as much as he can, mostly by writing absolutely insane, pretentious, pompous liner notes to his own performances, trying to beat us over the head with how brilliant and spiritual and fabulous he is. Then, of course, you listen to the performance, and it's like, well, it's just fast and kind of period instrumenty and very regimented and absolutely terrified that the world is not going to understand that he is smarter than Beethoven. And I got news for you, Maestro Currentzis. The world does not understand that you are smarter than Beethoven because you're not. And that's the way it is. So his Beethoven 7th, the second in a wretched ongoing series. I can hardly wait for the next one. The second white scarf of Irredeemable Chutzpah goes to, oh, this one was so easy, that appalling, oh my goodness, it was a botched abortion of a performance. The Beethoven Eroica, played one string player to a part with the full complement of winds, brass, and timpani by Ensemble Cristofori and conducted by Arthur Schoonderwoerd on AV. Now this was a scandal. I mean, this performance, people actually paid to make this recording. I couldn't believe it. The issue is not that they have no talent. They have plenty of talent. What they have is no taste, no idiomatic feel for Beethoven, and a completely philosophically backwards, warped concept of what they think they're doing. Their argument, quite simply, is that Beethoven symphonies were performed in private residences by teeny tiny ensembles. Therefore, it's perfectly legitimate to record them that way because Beethoven must have known it, and because he must have known they would be done that way, he must have thought it was okay. I mean, what bullshit. Just unbelievable bullshit. And the performance, oh my God, it sounds like you think the Eroica would sound when played one person to a part in the string section. All the balances are backwards. Everything, it's upside down. It sounds like it's upside down and underwater and backwards and inside out. And oh my goodness, it's a musical rectal exam. It's just awful. And that, my friends, deals with the two recordings that are recipients of the white scarf of Irredeemable Chutzpah. Currentzis, who believes in nothing but himself, and Cristofori, who believes in coming up with this warped, perverted version of scholarship to justify the atrocity that they're perpetrating on the music. And if that isn't chutzpah, or hubris, however you want to say it is fine, I don't know what is. I don't. So, next. Bang. So much for that one. We get the Scarlet Scarf of Shame. Yes, this, of course, is the Hawthorne-esque reference to the Scarlet Letter, the Scarlet Scarf of Shame. And here we have two fabulous, fabulous recordings. First, it's, what do you think? Bruckner! Yes, I brought them back from the chorale just for this award presentation. It's the Symphony No. 4, the Romantic, conducted by none other than Christian Thielemann. And he gets the Scarlet Scarf of Shame because here's a guy who has made his reputation and who runs around touting his authentic German bona fides, that he is the echt of all echtitudes, the most echt-delicious, echtitudinous, echtosity, whatever you want to say. He is the Urdeutsch. That's what he is. And he's going to do this music as only a true person of the Deutsche soil, Zela, something can do it. And it just turns out to be the most boring piece of crap you've ever heard in your life. And he manages to achieve the most boring piece of crap with like the Vienna Philharmonic. I mean, it's just awful. It's awful in every possible way. It is boring. It is badly recorded. It is undercharacterized. It's just horrible. It is eminently worthy of the Scarlet Scarf of Shame. Now, the next Scarlet Scarf of Shame goes to another recording of the Eroica, believe it or not. There are so many to choose from. And this is the one with Roth, Francois Xavier Roth, on Harmonia Mundi with Les Siècles, his own little period instrument group. This is probably the most mindless Eroica that I've heard in decades. I mean, there's just no operating intelligence behind it. This is a guy who decided he has to do the Eroica, and he has to make it sound somehow different. And so he just does random things to try and somehow make it sound like he has ideas. But whether those ideas actually suit the music or not doesn't ever seem to factor into the equation. It was just dreadful, absolutely dreadful, a disgrace because, the fact of the matter is, no performing classical musician in this day and age, especially one who is allegedly an expert in period performance and blah, 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 should turn in that wretched a performance of Beethoven's Third Symphony. It should not be possible. But it is possible, and so eminently worthy of the Scarlet Scarf of Shame. Next, we get rid of the Scarlet Scarf of Shame, and we get the Taupe Scarf of Turpitude. Yes, did you look it up? Turpitude, it means depravity, wickedness, nothing morally defensible about it. And there are two recordings in this category. The first, this was so easy. It's also Beethoven. It's the Beethoven New Essential Complete Edition, or the Complete Essential New Edition, or the Essential New Complete Edition, or whatever the hell it was, on Deutsche Grammophon. The most mindless, pointless, silly collection of Beethoven I have ever seen in my life. And it was just infuriating because it was so badly packaged and trashily presented, cheapy. And oh my God, it was just a concatenation of idiocy. It truly was. But more to the point, TG released that huge complete Beethoven box, the new complete Beethoven, right? And it had lots of duplication in it. So what they did was they stripped out the duplication at random, more or less, most of it, not all of it, and then just gave you what they call the new Essential Complete Beethoven Edition, which is exactly the same as the previous Complete Beethoven Edition, only you get less. And then they mucked it up so you can't figure out what's in it. So if that isn't turpitude, I don't know what is. I have never truly seen a box set that poorly put together and presented. And I wish I could understand what the hell is going on with Deutsche Grammophon, with the catalog and the reputation that they are squandering. I mean, you've seen my videos where I do the universal new release selection, and the stuff that they're releasing, the crap fest that Deutsche Grammophon has become. Every so often you see a genuine classical release. Some of them are marvelous. Two of my COLA awards, the Keep On Listening Awards, Discs of the Year, are on Deutsche Grammophon. One is the Orpheus box, and the other is that amazing Kit Armstrong disc of Bird and Bull keyboard music. So there's no question they can still do it. The question is, why don't they? I mean, what kind of lunacy is going on there? I don't know. But their new Essential Complete whatever Beethoven edition definitely earns the taupe scarf of turpitude. But the next one is another release by our good old friend Bruckner. Yes, it's that god-awful, it's another Fourth Symphony, by the way, that god-awful 3-disc collection, 4 discs, I don't remember how many it was, I don't care, of all the possible versions, conducted by Jakob Hruša, or Hruša, whatever his name is. I mean, he should not even want to have a name after doing that. This is the triumph of musicology over music. Because as we know, the man himself, I'm not going to say his name, it may set off a reaction, and I don't want to deal with it, never heard the first version. He preferred the second version, and the last one is that Bowdlerized bastardization that the Bruckner people, under the aegis of Benjamin Korstvedt, are trying to convince us is legitimate because Bruckner had some hand in it. And that, my friends, is turpitude, moral depravity. Not to mention probably the most boring collection of versions of that symphony that has ever been assembled in one place. I mean, it's just a snoozeroo to listen to. And if you want to listen to 3 performances of basically the same thing, only inferior versions of it, knock yourself out. It richly deserves the taupe scarf of turpitude. Now, we come to the climax of this year's ALDA Awards, the black scarf of lingering stench. This goes to a recording that I trashed at the beginning of this year, maybe last year, I don't know, a while ago, and it is still sitting there irritating me. It's stuck in my nostrils. It's one of those awful performances that had no reason to be as awful as it was. It was a shock that it was so bad. And that performance is, yes, the Petrenko Prokofiev Fifth Symphony on Lawo. I don't understand. Do not understand. Cannot understand. Why on earth? He blew it. Why do so many people blew it? What is the problem with this symphony? It's not complicated. It really isn't. You just play the climax as loud as hell. You get a great tam-tam and cymbals and percussionists, and you go nuts. You keep the scherzo moving. You let the adagio be songful and have a big climax, but keep it flowing at all costs. And the finale is another one of those pieces that you just have to keep it going until you get to the coda where you just take off like a bat out of hell. That's the recipe. I mean, if anyone in the future wants to know how to do that symphony, that's the recipe. And it doesn't take any particular smarts or insight or vision on my part. That's just what the man wrote. And it's what we never hear. What is going on that makes this symphony so difficult? I think perhaps it is that there's this effort to invest it with a certain pseudo-profundity that it doesn't really have, when it really ought to be just sort of like a slam, bam, thank you, ma'am, and move on. I don't know. I don't know what it is. And maybe that pseudo-profundity manifests itself in just dullness, sheer, unalloyed dullness. And that is what that performance has. And, Petrenko has done great stuff. And he's Russian. Hence the black scarf of lingering stench. I don't understand, but it's awful. It's absolutely awful. And so, my friends, those are the 7 ALDA winners, the Avoid Like Death Award winners. I hope you avoid them like death. If you happen to run into one, cross the street and walk on the other side. Just stay away. And now, having trashed them to the limits of my ability, I'm sure all the curious are going to run out and hear them anyway. And that's okay too. Why? Because it's your life. And as my mother always told me, when I was expressed some curiosity about the fact that serial killers always seem to get relationships with women who want to, meet them in jail and sleep with them and have their babies. My mother always said, there is no guy so repulsive and revolting that there is not a woman with a low self-esteem sufficient to want to elope with them. And that's the story with bad recordings. Someone's going to love it. Please don't let it be you. Really. And so, as a final parting gesture to these Avoid Like Death Awards, you may recall the COLA Awards were celebrated with the tremendous tam-tam of triumph. Well, the ALDA Awards, the ALDA people get the wretched ratchet of repugnance. Keep on listening, folks, but to other things. Take care.